Welcome to the new segment, Naked Hearts with Heart Activation. I'm really bringing forward vulnerable moments and vulnerable shares and looking at areas in our life that help us to really be able to connect inward and connect with other people. I have had this inspired idea for a few years now, and I feel in a space where spirit has really been supporting me to be able to make this come into an actual reality. And so I feel that there are so many people to learn from who we don't necessarily uh, view as learning from. And I absolutely feel that everybody has insight on something, and whether that be through the struggles that they've had, through traumas, through abuse, through neglect, like whatever that is, it's like I'm taking the pain of people and transforming that into a purpose and into a passion. So really where I find my passion is within empowering people and helping and guiding others to transform the way that they view their circumstances. So how I start this off is with, leading the way, leading through example, and showing up how I want to, showing up in the world and in this area, how I see to be. Yeah. Yes. So with that being said, I also feel for me and for what my aim is to be raw and unedited. I feel that spirit has whatever messages come through exactly how they're meant to come through, and also for people to see that this is, you can build on nothing. You can build from the bottom up. You don't need extravagant resources to be able to switch things around. And that is important. That is a huge part of, and quite honestly, starting from the bottom is a tremendous gift, because there's less things that you have to worry about. So it's been a blessing. I've learned so much and really continue to learn. So within this segment of Naked Hearts, I will be asking others to come on here and interview. But first, I do want to get into my life experience, into my journey, and what has brought me to the circumstances of which I find myself in. So it's what I hear a lot of the time is, when I share my experiences, is that you seem so happy and so full of life. I can't believe that all of those things have happened to you, and you seem so happy. It doesn't seem like, all of these judgments on where I am. So let me bring this to you, like what you see here today in front of you. Me, I am a product of my, the amount of work and healing that I have done, and the inward searching and acceptance, and inward silence, and allowing myself to just be. It's really, it doesn't come easily, and it hasn't come. I have not gotten through this space without a mass overhaul. And my mass overhaul happened over the course of many years. And the past 5 years have been The past 5 years has been an absolute push towards honing in on generational trauma, ancestral trauma, bringing my martyrdom and victim mentality to light and healing that, and being able to heal these aspects of myself, the divine feminine and the divine masculine within self, to be able to come from a very balanced point, a very neutral state, to be able to make unbiased choices and be able to come to and present and respond in a non-reactive way and a non-emotional way. And not saying that I don't have emotions, but it's like most people are working at this space of survival and trauma responsive, trauma reaction. So it's when most people are working from this space of an emotional reaction where it is straight pointing back at somebody to it's pointing back at somebody to blame about their circumstances. And see, and that's also the thing, it's not even about, it's all a okay, so I'm just gonna start getting into it because it's really, it can get muggled. It can get mucky, so we're just going to the experience part of it, because the experience is what had brought me to these. So what you see here is from a product of tons of deprogramming and unbecoming. So to start off, I always thought that having two parents was really weird. I felt that, I had no idea what it would begin. How does life begin, really? I remember hearing stories of why my mom chose to get married to my biological father, because they were babies. They were like 18, and it was not accepted at that time to be not married. And so they got married, of course, and I feel that this actually isn't a too uncommon thing. However, the other part of this is that after they got divorced when I was 2, that they, I didn't, my biological father came out of my life. Like, I didn't know him. I didn't meet him until I was 24. And so going throughout schools, because I had many schools growing up, I also learned that my grandma was more of my core foundation. My mom was more of a sister, per se, and I grew up with only one side of the family because, like I said, I did not know the paternal side of my family. And to me, it wasn't all the, like, people would ask me how my childhood was, and I wouldn't ever say bad. Like, I didn't recognize things were not normal until they were very abnormal, like until I was already in this hole, until I was already in this hole. So it was okay. I didn't recognize trauma until I couldn't live my life. I didn't recognize I didn't recognize these things until way after the fact, So being a daughter of a mom who was a child, basically, when she had me, left me, she was not done partying at that age and had left for, well, and I just want to preface this by saying I bring in aspects of our parents, right? Not to blame. I do not blame my mom whatsoever. Yes, there is accountability there. And yes, like, my mom did not know better. And and I feel so much compassion for her, and so much. And so I'm bringing these up because it's an understanding. Because once I can understand how this all became, I'm able to understand why the choices I made were the choices I made. So my mom was a partier, and having me, brought. I was all over the place. I grew up in bars, which I thought was totally a cool thing. Like, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think that, ordering kitty cocktails at the bar, like bellying on up to the bar, I thought it was like, it's super cool. I thought I was super cool. And I was excited because seemed like an exciting life. And I moved around a ton. I moved around at least every year. My mom did not have a father growing up. So my grandma and my mom and I were these females who had significant, like, abandonment wounds, and did not have proper insight into men at all. I mean, we were man haters, absolutely man haters. My mom, honestly, didn't know love, like true love, until she stopped drinking. So I feel that for me, it was just out of the gates. There was no way I was not going to dive into drugs and alcohol. Because for me, what I see is that, and through all of my years of being in recovery and working with people in the recovery program, and working with people who are still in their active addiction, it's I mean, anybody can become addicted to things, depending on the substance. Let's just face it, we're a society that is addicted to external stimulation, whether that be achieving, whether that be through like hustling, money, power, control, Facebook, sex, dating, relationships, food. All of the above. We are addicted to putting on masks that hide how we truly are. So I don't, the circumstances in which we grew up in either made it easier for us to become addicted, or it like showed us a way that we didn't need to be addicted to things. So, and now even so, it's like there's so much distraction from inner truth that you feel almost like an outcast for not being distracted. And that is, so a lot of the addicted to distractions becomes on by peer pressure, because it's just what everybody does. Everybody does something kind of wonky these days. So why is it we're accepting this wonky behavior? Because we don't know any different, honestly. So growing up in this man-hating household, and also my mom did have a brother who was schizophrenic, and committed suicide when I was 5. So it was, it was. I remember hearing my grandma get that phone call, and just the blood curdling on that, and that was just really a profound thing for a 5-year-old to hear. So, but I also remember, I remember more so because I was afraid of my uncle. He lived with us. I was afraid of him. I felt my grandma's pain. We went to church. My grandma went to church and I was in Sunday school and all these things. And I remember I remember these thoughts so vividly. Like, my uncle had a mental illness and he committed suicide. So in the Catholic Church, this would be viewed as a sin, like he was going to hell in the Catholic Church. And I didn't believe it. I didn't buy it. Like, I just couldn't, I'm hearing. Well, that's interesting. The smoke alarms or fire smoke alarms are going off, and I heard that and I just wanted to make sure it was okay. So interesting that those would go off at the time about talking about the Catholic Church. So, and I'm just going to say this quickly. I don't resonate with organized religion. I don't feel all organized religions are the same, and I don't feel all churches are the same. So if you feel comfortable and at home at a church, that's amazing. That's very important. And so I just wanted to continue that. However, I do feel that within organized religion, similar to politics, that it is a way to divide and to control. So that is just my belief. You don't have to agree with that whatsoever, because it doesn't take away from the experiences here. Okay, so moving forward, it really didn't believe that my uncle was going to hell because he committed suicide of a mental illness. And this is where I started questioning what I was learning in church. And I do also remember feeling an extreme sadness while connecting with Jesus and the Stations of the Cross. And I remember connecting to Mary Magdalene as well. And in like our plays and the way that we saw these things, like, I never viewed Mary Magdalene as what the Bible had put. I had this like innate heart. And for Mother Mary as well. I had this innate heart that just felt these things. And I don't know, it was, and now I understand, but at that time I didn't buy into it. So after my uncle committed suicide, my mom was engaged to somebody who had stepsons. And I remember that, like growing up, my mom would be partying on the weekends. And so we would play house, and playing house at that time was this 12, 13-year-old making me do things that I was unaware of. And so stepping into that realm at 5 years old, and after a few times had shared with my mom about what was happening, and it just didn't unfold like how you would think that it would unfold. It happened in a way where I didn't necessarily, you don't think it's a big deal. I told my mom because I knew, like, she always told me that I needed to tell her things like that. And quite honestly, didn't. I didn't know. I think of a 5-year-old's mind, and you just don't know. You just don't know. And probably blamed myself at that time, actually. And so this is really where the significant change in, like, a place that I go back to often to look at wounds was at this point of time when I was being molested by an older boy. And, because honestly, most things stem from this. And so I also remember, like, we didn't move from the house. And, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine being a mom and hearing my daughter say those things. You wouldn't want, like, to believe that. It would be difficult to hear that and not know how to fully handle that yourself if you haven't dealt with your traumas. Like, so I put myself in my mom's shoes many times to work on the healing in that aspect. And that's okay. I actually have had things reverse for me in my life, and I am beyond grateful, because now I feel that child abuse and molestation is something that really needs to be talked about more than ever in this society. And especially me, like as a girl, and being able to say this, you imagine what it's like for men, because I there most people that I talk to, men, no, most people in general have had some sort of experiences along this line. However, what I see recently is most guys coming forward and saying, yes, like that I have had sexual abuse as a child, but like not being able to talk about it or come to terms with it because of there's so much stigma around that. And that's incredibly sad. However, and it's changing. It's changing. I'm seeing the fact that I'm seeing more of this come to light is incredibly empowering. That society is actually starting to open up its ways to be open to this, to be able to share. Like I wasn't to be able to share. Like as a man, I was molested by another guy or boy or woman, or and that doesn't make me any less of a man. It doesn't make me any less of a human. And so I feel in, like, especially with so much of the culture that's going on, the masculinity, so much of like the imbalanced masculinity is coming to forth. And I feel at the root of that is a lot of trauma that hasn't been dealt with. So childhood molestation is a huge thing that needs to come to the surface to heal. And it's what's to be shameful about it, because people didn't know at the time. Like I at one time thought I was asking for it, and you just don't know. You really don't know until you don't know how things affect you, until you aren't functioning well, until you aren't able to make these relationships in your life, until you're not able to go to work or stay in work or keep a job or even know who you are or what do you like to do? I don't know, because I've been just having shit thrown in my brain forever. I don't even really know who I am. So anyways, it's a big thing, and I'm super glad to be bringing this to the forefront. Because that is that's a core thing for me. That was absolutely was the foundation of my misalignments in relationships and with self. So eventually we did move away and broke up with that guy, and then moved to Chicago. So I did, like I said, I had one set of family, one side of the family, and I had a grandma and grandpa who were actually my great aunt and great uncle in Chicago, who also, I just fucking love them. I love them so much. It was beautiful because they really took my mom under her wing and me. So, because they were her aunt and uncle. So my mom's aunt and uncle, maternal aunt and uncle, I called my grandma and grandpa, and still, like, they were like the only relevant and stable relationship I had any role models of. So we would actually, my mom and I would move back and forth between Chicago and Milwaukee once a year. So I went to many different schools. Sometimes it would be twice a year. And I had never understood what it was like to be a person who went to school the same school more than 1 year, until I think sixth grade. Yeah. Until sixth grade. So, and then I moved back. So high school was finally when I got to go to one school for more than 2 years. And so I know how now that has played a huge role in my life. And that also had brought up abandonment issues for me too. Like I never made friends, like real friends, because I knew that I was leaving. So why make friends? Why become a part of something? And I was always the new girl. So I always was like most of the time picked on, and then also felt like I had to present myself in a certain way. I was a chameleon and became who I needed to be in order to be a part of at this new school. And I remember just always feeling super awkward being around men and uncomfortable. Like everything was like super, don't touch me. Like, and even seeing fathers being affectionate with their daughters, like my friends, I would find that to be extremely weird. I had no nurturing, like physical contact, as you know, like I would have my arms rubbed. And that was, I remember, I feel like, and I would be sick a lot, or I would fake being sick a lot. And I thought it was just because I hated school. But I think that I actually like wanted to be taken care of. Oh, that's really sad. So I mean, I did that a lot. I did that a lot because I wanted to, and I saw that like even playing out into adult life, that I would get attention, even if it was negative attention, but I would get people to be there for me if I was sick. So it was just interesting to look back on those behaviors that had gotten started and why they got started. Now, through all of this, back and forth, and not having established real friendships, and being a chameleon and wanting to fit in and all these things, my at my mom got sober when I was 9 or 10. And I also remember feeling like, oh, this is sad. This is sad. Oh. I chuckle because, it's like there's always these aspects of self that come up, and it's like, wow, like that is sad. And I love that part of me. So when my mom got sober, I was like really hoping for attention. I remember specifically being like, yes, no, she'll actually have time for me and stuff. And um, oh my gosh, I did not expect for this part to come up, and that's totally okay. So my mom quit drinking, and I was excited to have time with her. And instead, she wound up going back to school for her PhD, which is a beautiful thing. She was a high school dropout and she went back to school, and then married who I called dad, and then married who I called dad, and then had 2 kids, and my grandma died when I was 14. So it went from like, I think the age of 10 to 14. It was my mom got sober, married, had kids, went back to school for a PhD, and my grandma died. And my mom was still emotionally unavailable. And I never put that's a lot of change for somebody. And so I started drinking. Actually, it started off with cigarettes. I started off as cigarettes, and it escalated to drinking, and then escalated to smoking pot. And then it was all of these things on the weekend. I started at about 6th grade, and then, escalated more the more my grandma got sick, and we started taking care of her in our house. And then I remember I was drink an obscene amount on the weekends. I was, one of the things that I forgot to mention was like, as much as like I felt weird around guys. I was so boy crazy. Like, I had to be talking to many boys at the time, and I loved the attention. Loved the attention. And so when I look back, like, I really see that was actually my first, I don't want to say addiction at that time, but it was absolutely my first drug of choice, was attention from the opposite sex. That external validation creates the same chemistry within your brain as heroin does. So that the dopamine of the attention, the finding and the seeking and the conquering creates the same effects as heroin. It's actually in a book. I will have to actually, it's in a book. Oh, that's nice, Elaine. Which book? Oh yeah, Patrick Carnes. The Courage to Heal is also part of that. Patrick Carnes he actually has written a lot of the sex addiction books there. So if you want to look up Patrick Carnes, Carnes, he has a lot of information on comparing the new love to heroin addiction. So coming back, I was 14, drinking a ton, super depressed, in a relationship with somebody older, and lost my virginity. And I mean, it was just like the whole cycle over. Like, it just created a whole cycle. I really had no idea how to deal with the pain and how to deal with the hurt that was there. I mean, zero ideas of what that was. Even looking back, I'm super like, what is that? What? Like, who actually? So it just was it was the perfect match for a storm to brew. And this was my first realization that there was a purpose in my pain. So after my grandma died, I remember I was like cutting while my grandma was still alive, and cutting, that helps no, it gives the illusion. I cut a lot, and because it helped me to see the emotional stuff was too much to deal with. So having a physical pain helped me to focus on something emotionally. It helped for the feelings to come out, period. And it was like a release in a way, but yeah, honestly, I didn't really release the feelings. It was just like some sort of, no, I didn't heal the feelings. It did release some sort of satisfaction. So cutting, oh yeah, after my grandma died, then my suicide attempt when I was just about 15, I think. I don't know. I downed a whole bottle of ibuprofen, so about 200 pills, and cough syrup. And my ex or boyfriend at the time, I don't remember, called 911. And then I went back to school, and I mean, not, like, it didn't go. And then I went back to school. No, I was in the ICU room for like a week, and then I was in psychiatric care for I don't even know how long, but did you know that if you try to commit suicide like that and you don't succeed, you get arrested? Like, I didn't know that. I did. I got arrested. I mean, that's so terrible. Things couldn't feel worse at that time. And that's again, like, it's just looking back, because I do feel that I have experienced some of things that people can't fathom, that I have experienced them to be able to be a way shower. And I'm super love all of it. I wouldn't change a damn thing about my past. I wouldn't change anything. Um, nothing, because I seriously love how I'm able to be here for people. Love it. And also, I'm not denying that it was rough, and I love my life and I love myself right now. So it's like, I really, with the intention of sharing all of this, bring hope that that is a thing. You can be utterly blissful in life at times from nothing other than completely loving all parts of yourself. And like, even when you think you do, like, even deeper than that, like, I'm never done learning to love myself deeper. So it's a spiral, So upon getting released from the psychiatric ward at 15, I just, I, hmm, oh yes, it was AA. They made me, it was part of my plan to go to AA, and I really enjoyed it. I going to my first meeting, there were so many smiles, there was so much love. I felt super accepted and supported, and I mean, like, people in this area, especially for somebody so young to be in a group, were just like, wow. I, you know, I wish I would have got my stuff together when I was your age, type thing. And that's all cool and everything. And unfortunately, well, it not for unfortunately, that wasn't my last time drinking. I did get like a little over a year of sobriety, or 18 months or something. And upon graduation, a whole nother cycle started up. But yeah, so closing off this part of my life segment here, experiencing going to AA was honestly a foundation for me to understand, like, at, people were like, it is inspiring what you're doing. It is. And for me to be the only person in high school, because I was then made fun of and called psycho and crazy and all these things because of my suicide attempt. And even years later, now I have people that are like, yeah, I remember you doing that. And that was like, you were inspiring to me. And how many people have alcohol addictions? Like, so for me to be a 15-year-old in high school and to be in AA after a suicide attempt, I, I was experiencing, and it was nothing different though. It was like I was different than the rest. Now it was just in a much more loud way. And I learned to own that to a degree. And now I see why that that is where a lot of my journey had actually started, in the rooms of recovery. So, um, because I felt the unconditional love. I felt accepted. I had so much fun. I had so much fun, and I wasn't even like under the influence of anything. It was just really a beautiful year in my life. And that year, again, was a year that I could go back to and look at and see, like, look at you, do create this happiness within yourself. Like, this is possible for you to be happy without anything else. So that was really important to me. And I hold that part of me very close to my heart. So that will be that is the end of the first segment here. Again, I want to show gratitude in being patient with me fine-tuning things as we move along in this segment, and as we move along in creating a space that keeps love in a no judgment zone, and as we keep this as something that means something to people. Um, Understanding that the raw and unedited parts are really the most beautiful parts in life. That is super phenomenal. So I to all who is listening or will be listening, I want to send you so much love, and I also welcome you to come back for more in my story. And also, of course, heartactivation.net is my website, which is also where I have a lot of my healing services available and spiritual mentorship, and any other type of spiritual tools and know-hows are on there as well. So I love you all so much. And that was my winking. Until next time.